who is the cat? Because Thatchery goes up and he's like, "Dad, dad, dad," and like he's meowing though, and it's just like, oh, the cat is a beast. And then we start switching over to modern day. So before we hit What's poppin', y'all? Welcome to Post Finale. I'm your host, Ankit Madhira. I'm an actor and a musician who has not seen a lot of films, so to make my friends happy and potentially provide a new perspective on some popular films, I am on a quest to change that. I am never on this quest alone, however. This week, I am joined by actor, stand-up comic, aerial and sequence designer, and impressionist, the author of Shit My Mama Says, and an old friend of the podcast, Bobby Hedglin-Taylor. I just butchered your name, but welcome back, Bobby.
Ankit Madhira.
I deserve that.
It's not, people butcher it all the time. Hedglin.
I know it's Hedglin, and like in my brain as I was reading your name, I was like, and the D is silent. It is not.
Hedglin. It's like hedges.
Well, Bobby Hedglin-Taylor, welcome back. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, and it's good to see you again. The last time we talked, you were in London, and we were trying to find time to connect and discuss Moonstruck, which was still one of my favorite movies. But then you posted that you had another movie that is that is one of my all-time favorites. So I'm happy to chat with you about.
Yeah, when you messaged me saying I love this film, I was like, done and done. It was a lovely time having you on for Moonstruck. And if anyone is curious, Moonstruck was an audio-only episode, but go check them out. They're very, very fun episodes. But now you get to be on the video aspect of it here on YouTube as well. So now people get to see your face.
Hello. Just fun.
Wonderful. This week we're starting our discussion leading up. It is, going to be the middle-ish of September, but because I have a film that's coming out that's going to take a bit longer, ladies and gentlemen, we're starting our Halloween stuff a little early. I apologize. But apparently I'm not as early as this film. So, we will figure that out. So, yes, we are talking about Hocus Pocus. Now, Bobby, you love this movie.
Oh, God, yeah.
When did you first see it? Why do you love this movie without spoilers?
Okay, so in 1993, the movie was released in mid-July. It got horrible reviews. And my friend Jean and we were both dealing with breakups, and I was like, Jean, I need to go to a movie. I don't care. This movie got bad reviews, but it's Bette Midler and it's Kathleen and Jimmy, Bette Midler and Sarah Jessica Parker. It can't be that bad. And we literally got to the theater, and we were the only two people in the entire theater by ourselves on the opening day of Hocus Pocus. It was not well received. We enjoyed it, but it really wasn't well received. It become a cult classic over the past 30 plus years. And I feel like the camp value of it is what got it across the finish line to becoming this really cool. It's now a Disney property and franchise. And there's also a part 2 that Disney released 2 years ago. They're doing a part 3 TV movie version where it's the backstory. So, the public has really embraced these characters. And, if you get a chance to see part 2, it's like a love letter. It's like a love letter revisiting these 3 characters. So, but the first film, yeah, it was a great, we saw it, loved it. It was on VHS not much sooner after it came out in the theaters. And I'd had it on VHS, and we started watching it every year and then got it on DVD, started watching it every year at Halloween. It just became like this little, seasonal card, oh, this is a fun movie about Halloween and witches and Salem, which I love Salem as well. So, so yeah, 1993, first time I saw it. I must have seen it about 4,000 times since then, just because I do enjoy it.
Fair. It so far is a very fun film. I'm
Yeah,
really here for it. As you said, very campy, very entertaining. Now, like when I heard of it, right, and I thought I might have seen it when I was trying to figure out what do I do for Halloween this year, because last year I did Rocky Horror Picture Show, and I was like, I got to do something Halloweeny. So like, let's do something that's going on with Halloween. And I was going through the list, and I was like, well, I could do Halloween, I could do this, but I've done quite a few like serious movies
yeah,
in the last few weeks and in the last few months that I was like, you know what? Let's take a little of a turn. Let's see if I can find something that's comedic in Halloween. And I was kind of like just jumbling through some like Halloween movies, like, when you Google and you're like, best Halloween movies.
right.
Um, this one popped up on the list, and I was like, I do not remember if I've actually seen this film. And then I'm like racking my brain behind it, and I'm like, okay, if I have seen the film, I know nothing about the film, so I haven't seen the film. Because it might have been just like that when I was like 6 and it came on like ABC Family or
Right.
something as a kid. And like, I have zero recollection of any of the plot points of this
Right. And yeah, and it's like I said, it's currently like there are dolls, there are costumes, there are like there it's got this whole other industry from the franchise now. That it's like it's like September 1st is Halloween season now, and everybody starts, posting, and you get, all the fun merchandise that came out is just ridiculous. So,
Right. I mean, it is definitely crazy. I don't fully get why we can't have the month of September, but I
yeah,
don't know. It's the same reason we can't have the month of November. Apparently,
no,
November not a month.
no,
So thank you, corporate America.
yeah.
So anyway, here is what I actually did know going into this film: three sisters who were witches. I guess it's now Disney, but it wasn't Disney. I just knew Disney because I knew that Disney had released the sequel. I know that there is a sequel, and I know shenanigans happen. This is it. This is all I know about this film. So, opening up, we see a book that says 1693 and Hocus Pocus. And I was like, lovely, right to the point, no time to waste, let's go. Also, with a title like Hocus Pocus, if there are not shenanigans, I will be disappointed. So, we enter, and this is a fantastic score. Like, already from the first, like, 3 minutes of this film, this score is incredible. I love the music in this movie. And we see the shadow of someone flying on a broom. I'm assuming it's one of the sisters. She's flying over some water, foresty hills, to a small town. And in the small town, there's a boy. I thought he was sick, lying in bed. He's not sick. But all the animals start getting scared. And I was like, are they scared because of one of the witches? Like, what is the witch going to harm the animal? Like, why? I don't want harm to animals. But we see the witch outside of the window. The boy jolts up, and he thinks that it might be Emily. And he doesn't seem sick. He goes outside and sees if it is Emily, and they're singing in the background. Now, these are the lovely little words that are being sung in the background
Mhm.
because I had subtitles on and it told me what they were.
Little children, I'll take you away. Yes, I remember it well.
Yeah. Keep going. It's beautiful.
Yeah, Sarah Jessica's not in my repertoire yet,
Ah,
but
so close. It continues with Into a land of enchantment.
right.
Come, little children, the time's come to say. Now, there's another boy, Elijah. And is Elijah the first boy or the second boy? I realized much later on that I have had these two backwards in all of my notes. So if any of the patrons are looking at my notes, they're gonna be wrong.
Elijah is just the neighbor kid, or
Okay.
It's never really explained who he is actually, but Thackeray is Emily's brother.
Is the brother.
Yeah,
Yeah. Um,
and he becomes something else later.
yes. So Thackeray asks Elijah if he's seen Emily, his little sister. And Elijah's like, nay, but look, they conjure. And in the distance, we see a purple plume of smoke and light. It is purple, right?
Yeah.
Yes, I got it right. Sweet. Okay, so it's a purple plume of smoke and light, and I'm like, oh, the witches are conjuring. Wow. I love movies like this because I'm able to piece together what's actually happening, unlike most of the time where I'm confused. I'm so confused, but like, um, the boys run to the woods and they see Emily running into the woods, and the brother just accepts fate. He's just like, oh well, there goes Emily. Like
Yeah.
that sucks. Um, or is it Thackeray that accepts the fate? Because this is where I got confused on which one it was.
Thackeray, she's done for, I think he says.
Okay, so Thackeray's the one that's like, no. Elijah's the one that says he's done for, because then Thackeray says this next
Not
line, because
yet.
I have it completely flipped in my notes. In all of my notes, it's Elijah's doing all of what happens next and not Thackeray, but then I find out that it's
Right.
Thackeray. So Thackeray says, not yet. You wake my father, summon the others, go. And I was like, it's not gonna work.
I could never sit next to you in a movie theater. I'd be throwing popcorn at you right now.
I am very good when I'm watching a movie because I keep the thoughts to myself.
No, I'm teasing because, like, but yes, I
But
was thinking
like,
the same thing. Not gonna work.
yeah, if I'm watching a movie and it's like at home with friends and like one of us has seen it before, and
Yeah.
like usually, and I won't do it if the other person hasn't seen it before,
Yeah.
right? But I'll do it if I'm the one watching it for the first time. So, for example, over the summer, some of my friends got me to watch Twilight for the first time.
Oh,
I
okay.
know nothing about Twilight. I know that there are werewolves and I know that there are vampires. And things are happening throughout the movie, and we're just laughing and talking about the movie the entire time. And so like I'll do it in like a situation like that. But if it's like, hey, I'm like, hey, come watch one of my favorite films that I know you've never seen before, I
Yeah.
will sit there quietly and just enjoy the film with you.
No, but I love that. I just love it. It's not gonna work.
Not gonna work. Now, Thackeray chases Emily into the woods. The soundtrack, again, incredible. 3 minutes in, and this is a soundtrack that I'm just going to listen to, and it's being added to my like movie music playlist, which is like 26 hours long at this point. But like we digress. Thackeray trips and falls. He slides down a large hill in the woods. It looked painful. He hears giggling and sees the house of the witches. Well, isn't that convenient? He just managed to trip and fall right where he needed to go. Yay! Now, Emily enters this house of the witches, and Thackeray sneaks up to a window, looks in, and we see Emily in a chair and 3 witches circling around her. Emily notices Thackeray, and he ducks out of view before the witches see him. However, they are suspicious, so they go and check for him. Winnie, who is the oldest sister or the main sister or
She's
like
the
the one with the poofy red hair,
Yeah, she's the oldest.
she's the oldest as well. Okay, so she calls to her sisters, says, it must have just been an imp, and it's like, okay, well, it's not important then. Winnie tells her darling, the book, that they must continue with their little spell now that the guest of honor has arrived. Winnie wakes up the book and it has an eye on it and is living. I didn't know that sentient book was on the table. I'm sorry. What?
Have you seen The Evil Dead?
What do you think, Bobby?
I think you have.
No.
You've never seen it?
I've never heard of it.
Oh, okay. The Evil Dead, there's a book that's bound in human skin. That's what this book is based on. So yeah, so it's similar to that. It's a book of the dead that conjures up all these evil spirits.
Oh,
But that's another one you should check out if you like horror. If
lovely.
you like horror flicks, because that's a scary one.
I don't like horror flicks.
Go see, I do.
See, every time I do a horror flick for this show, it's only ever for this show.
Mm.
I don't usually do horror flicks. It's just like not my cup of tea if I'm gonna sit down. I'd rather sit down and watch like an animated
Yeah,
movie or
sure.
something. Like I'd rather and like I don't mind dark movies and I don't
Mhm.
mind, things like that. I just don't need jump scares and psychological horror and
Yeah, I
yeah.
saw. I went to see the new Aliens movie, um,
Mhm.
which is pretty much a horror movie. It's not, it's a lot of jump scares. It's a lot of blood and gore. It follows the franchise. It's sort of like this movie was, in between Alien and Aliens 2. So it's like this middle of the road kind of, it's a full story where everybody is dead basically at the end, but and then it somehow continues the story to Aliens. But it's that's a formula that's out there with the modern, but like there are some really great horror movies from the 80s that weren't just about gore. They had the reason we loved them so much, like Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street, is that, and Halloween was terrifying, but it was the Hitchcockian way that they were directed. So you saw the murderer in the background, and like so you could see the anticipation of that creeping, so it's those kind of horror movies. I love those. Jump scares, they don't. I don't need a jump scare. Like
I don't either.
I need
I
story. Like if you're gonna do that kind of a psychological killer or murder, I want to be invested in the story more so than ah, woo.
Yeah. I mean, I loved Silence of the Lambs, and I know a lot of people say that that's a horror film, but I don't view it as a horror film. I view it as a detective film.
Yeah, yeah. And
Like,
another one that's just like it called Copycat with Sigourney
okay.
Weaver, which you should check out, where she's a prosecutor or a cop or something. I can't remember exactly. I think she's a prosecutor, but there's a person who is a copycat killer who is copycatting all of the serial killers throughout the years and starts to kill off her friends and family with those murders and so she's I don't know if it's all of hers, but she's investigating this copycat killer. So it's like Summer of Sam, and then there's like Bundy. So she's watching like this whole psychological um way that she finds out who the killer is, and it's just so fascinating. It's scary, but it's fascinating because it's really good script, and
Ooh,
so
very fun.
yeah,
Well, back to Thackeray and conveniently falling outside of witches' houses.
yeah.
So, and books. So they're like, all right, Winnie is just like, "'Tis time." And the book flips to the page with the spell/potion. Now, what they have to do: bring to a full rolling bubble, add 2 drops oil of boil. Meanwhile, Thackeray is climbing the wheel outside of the house, sneaking into a window to see what is going on to try to save his little sister. Continuing on with this potion. Mix blood of owl with the herb that's red. Turn 3 times, pluck a hair from my head. Now, this is where I have a doubt. Does this mean Winnie's head because she is the one reading the instructions? Or is it the sister who's I'm gonna get names mixed up all the time between the other two, or is it the sister who's actually making the potion? Does she need to pluck the hair, or is it this sentient book that now has a head of hair as well? Because who knows? And it's the head's hair. Like which hair? I need
well,
specificity.
well, Sarah Jessica Parker plays Sarah in the film, so she's the youngest sister, and
Great.
and so that's the easy way to remember them. And then Mary is Kathy Najimy. Now, when you're a witch, you're reading the spell, you are casting the spell, it's giving you those instructions so that person who is reading the spell was pluck a hair from your head. That's the way I took it, at least.
See, that's my understanding. But then at the same time, you're reading the spell, but you're not doing a spell. You're making a potion.
You know, it's a Disney movie. You know? An incantation. Okay. From what I know, from what I know from Wiccans and from modern witches, when you are making an incantation is a prayer, and a blessing is what you do, is how you make a potion. You're blessing a potion. So it's the same kind of a concept where the incantation she's saying is putting the magical words on the potion to therefore, possess the child so that they can live longer. That's the vibe that they're trying.
Beautiful. We'll go with Winnie's hair then.
Yeah.
Now, the last instruction, add a dash of pox and a dead man's toe. Winnie's excited. She's like, I want it to be a fleshy one. And we get Sarah dancing around being like, dead man's toe, dead man's toe. And then Mary does find a fresh one. And Winnie gets hit with something and tells the other two to cut it out. She needs to concentrate. Meanwhile, Thackeray is in the house. He's watching all of this
she
happen.
threw a dead man's toe at her.
Probably. That's what I thought it was.
Yeah.
Now, Mary's like, I smell a child. And Winnie's
Winnie, I smell children.
I love Winnie, though. And she just goes, what does thou call that? And points at Emily. And then Mary's just like, a child. Winnie calls the sisters. They need one more. A bit of thine own tongue. And then they all spit into the pot. That is not your tongue. That is saliva. There is a difference, but fine.
They bite you see them bite though.
Okay. Maybe they had tongue. Fine. I'll cut them slack. Okay. I guess. Okay. The movie's older than I am, so what do I know? The potion is ready for tasting. One drop, and this and her life will be mine. I mean, ours. Well done, Winnie. And then this is where I was like, I'm confused. Are the witches the heroines or the villains of this movie? Because I thought they were like, quote unquote, the good guys. But I might be wrong. They might be, quote unquote, the bad guys. All I know is that chaos ensues because of them.
Right.
So this is all I'm working with here. I don't really know what's going on. The witches are about to pour the potion into Emily's mouth. And Thackeray yells, no! And then they turn and gasp, and they're like, oh, boy! And I was like, yes! The campiest of camp. Let's go! It's so good.
There's a lot of lore online about this, too. And also, I encourage you to look up the behind the scenes of making of the movie, because there's like a 30-minute behind the scenes. They talk about how each of the girls how they got their powers. Mary apparently has dog qualities. And so she, I think, was half dog. And Sarah is boy crazy. So that's why, and then Winnie being the leader of the three of them, she has more of an earth quality, and she's more of the mother witch. But there's something about that. I can't remember exactly what it is, but it's in that, and it's about them finding their backstory. So
nice. Yeah. I will look it up after I finish the film.
Yeah.
So then Thackeray jumps down, starts swinging the cauldron. It causes Mary and Sarah to fall over, and then he spills all of the potion onto the ground as he pours it. And then Thackeray, all high and mighty after defeating 2/3 of the enemy, runs to Emily. And meanwhile, Winnie's just standing there and uses her zappy zap powers and like tases him pretty much.
Yeah.
Like this is what it looks like. And I'm just like,
finger
dude. And I was like, Thackeray, this one's on you. You forgot that there was a third.
Yeah.
Like, take out the third. So Mary and Sarah are fine. And, they're all okay, and they notice that the life force potion has worked on Emily, and they decide to share her. The witches all move up to Emily and start sniffing and sucking her life force away. Thackeray starts to wake up and is watching this happen, and the witches now all look younger. Yay, the potion and the spell worked. They took a little girl's life. I mean, no, wait, that's a terrible thing. Um, I'm confused on who I'm supposed to be rooting for. So they plan to suck the life out of all the children in Salem so that they can be younger and attractive. And I was like, wait, is this the Salem witch trials? Is that what they're referring to? It clicked. It finally clicked.
1692, 1693. Yeah. So that's when the Salem witch trials would have been. Have you ever been to Salem, by the way?
I've been to Salem, Oregon, but I'm assuming it's not the same Salem.
No, Salem, Massachusetts. It is, well, now it is, I call it witch to kitsch, because the entire town is wall to wall witches, and there's enchanted shops with Wiccan shops. There's like stones and potions, and then there's, then there's the actual Gallows Hill where the witches, the witch trials, the women who were accused of being witches were hanged. And so
Mm-hmm.
there's all these stones as memorials. And so there's no real gravesite because they weren't allowed to be buried. They had to be thrown into a ditch, and they were never buried in the family plot. So there's all these memorials. So it's very spiritual. And in downtown Salem, there is a beautiful statue that is of Elizabeth Montgomery, who was the star of the TV show Bewitched,
Mm-hmm.
from the 1960s and 70s. And so it's like, it's this bizarre town if you ever get there. And then there are actual little villages. Some of the buildings are still there from the 1600s, but they're reenactments. So there's like a whole, you can walk through what a village would have looked like in the 1600s. One of those reenactment, where they have bad actors telling you, telling you the whole story of that. But it's a fascinating town. Like, I highly suggest it. You're not going to find much history or much like real like stories, except the women who were accused of witchcraft and then eventually killed. But there's so much spooky Halloween lore about it. It's a great trip. You got to go.
Nice. I'll see you next time I'm out in the Northeast.
Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully sooner rather than later. We'll
Yeah,
see.
come to New York. We'll hang.
Woo!
Um,
So they want to brew another batch of this stuff, and Thackeray is just like, you had. Oh, I'm sorry. That was rude of me. I need to get the insult proper. Thackeray was like, you hag. There are not enough children in the world to make thee young and beautiful. And I was like, well done, Thackeray. Good insult. He is, just watched his sister be murdered, but like, you still got
yeah.
the sass. I was like, fair insult, kid. I love that the witches are insulted that they were called hag. And they're like, oh, what should we do? And it's like, barbecue and fillet him. And then Sarah just goes, hang him on a hook and let me play with him. And I'm like, how did you get away with this in a children's movie?
Yeah, it was 93. You could get away with a lot of stuff. So
You can't get away with anything anymore.
no.
And it makes me sad. So the book flies over, and Winnie says that his punishment must be more lingering. It must be dazzling. And Thackeray isn't tied up. So I was just like, why doesn't he just try to escape? I mean, granted, he's just going to be zappy zapped again, but like, meh. At least put up a fight.
Yeah.
Now, the book gives up some options: amnesia, bunions, chilblains, chilblains, and cholera.
Cholera.
All good options, but they can do better. And it's like, oh, look, they found a punishment. His punishment is not to die, but to live forever with his guilt. And Winnie, is like, jump back. And then she starts saying her, incantation, and twist the bones and bend the back. And then you have the other two sisters, Ichita, Kapita, Malika, Mystica.
Right.
And I'm like, cool. Like, you two were involved as well. Fun. You've got some rhythm to this.
Trim him of his baby fat.
Give him fur black as black. And
Just
I was like,
like
are they turning him into a dog? And then they turn, and then she goes, just like this. And then I was like, oh, a cat. This makes significantly more sense. Use your brain, Ankit.
that.
I was like, yes.
Halloween movie, Black Cat. Yeah.
Makes significantly more sense than fluffy dog.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, the rest of the townspeople have arrived and they try and hide the child. They decide to give up immediately on hiding the child. I love that they're like, hide the child. Never mind. I love the excuses here. They're just like, we're just three kindly old spinster ladies. Townspeople catch them and they have set them up to hang. And we hear this from one of the townsfolk, Winifred Sanderson. So we get the full name drop. One final time, what have you done with my son Thackeray? And this is when I realized, oh, have I been calling Thackeray Elijah this entire time in
Yeah.
all of my notes? I had them wrong. We're doing great.
It's all good.
It's all good. They don't know. Now, Winnie is just like, I don't know. Cat's got my tongue. And I was like, she just gave you the answer. Townsfolk, be bright. Use your brains. She just gave you the answer. Now, the rope is apparently terribly uncomfortable, and they start singing. And they start singing, thrice I with mercury purify and spit upon the 12 tables. Then, I guess, Elijah, because I had him mixed up, but Elijah is dumb and tosses the book down while trying not to listen to this song, and the book flips open to a page. Winnie calls them all fools, and then utters this. My ungodly book speaks to you. On All Hallows Eve, when the moon is round, a virgin will summon us from under the ground. We shall be back, and the lives of all the children shall be mine. And then the order is given. The three witches are hung. Bada bing, bada boom. So,
And
they're
that
gonna be back.
and that's the end of the that's the backstory.
Yes.
So that's the whole backstory of what we're about, like then we go to modern day.
We do. We have one little bit that happens right before modern day, but it's just the dad thinks that his son Thackeray, who is the cat, because Thackeray goes up and he's like, dad, 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 and like he's meowing though, and it's just like, oh, the cat is a beast. And then we start switching over to modern day. So before we hit modern day, we are going to take a quick intermission where we're going to talk about some stuff, and we will be right back. Hello, everyone. I hope you are all enjoying this episode of Post Finale. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. And if you enjoy the episode and you are having a good time, please make sure to hit the subscribe button if you're listening on YouTube and hit that like button. And please be sure to follow the show if you're listening on any other app like Spotify, Apple Music, etc. It doesn't matter where you're listening for us. It just means so much that you are listening to this episode. And thank you all so much. It really does help out the show and the channel. So thank you all very much for tuning in. Now, if you are enjoying the content and you want to gain access to more content, you can do so by signing up for our Patreon. And speaking of Patreon, we have an update for our patrons. And the update is that Lucy Sadler, thank you so much for upgrading to production manager. It really means a lot to us. Thank you so much. And for anyone else that wants to sign up, gain access to bonus content, you can see tier lists, you can see notes that we have, some bonus videos, some bonus audios, different things like that. You can suggest films that we do. All sorts of things like that can be found on our Patreon, which you can find at patreon.com/coopforge. So that's patreon.com/CO_OPFORGE. And thank you so much to anyone who is even considering this. It really does help us out a lot, and thank you. Now, Be sure to also follow us on social media for Post Finale. You can find us at Post Finale Pod on Instagram and Facebook. And you can also follow Co-op Forge, where we post a lot of content as well, not just about Post Finale, but for all the shows that we host here on Co-op Forge. So that includes Seattle Across the Pond, and that includes Flip the Scripts. So if you want to follow that one on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook, it is at Co-op Forge. So at CO_OPFORGE. And it really does help. The best way to help the show in a non-monetary way, if you want to do that too, is just to talk about the show. Word of mouth is the best way to help grow the show. Just reach out to a friend and be like, hey, you love films, or hey, I know that you need a reason to watch more films. Check out this show where the host is an actor who hasn't seen anything and he's confused most of the time on what's going on. It's silly. It's a fun time. He's really humble. It's a fun, great way to help the show grow. And talk about us on social media. It really, really does help. Thank you all so much to anyone who has done this in the past, anyone who will do this in the future. It really does mean the world to us. But that's enough of me rambling on. Once again, if you want to follow us on social media, it's at Post Finale Pod and at Co-op Forge, CO_OPFORGE. And if you want to sign up for the Patreon, again, there is zero pressure to do so. Listening to the show means so much to us. But if you want to do that, it can be found at patreon.com/co-op forge. So that's patreon.com/CO_OPFORGE. And let's get back to the show. So we're back, and we start off with a voiceover, and we hear, poor Thackeray Binks. Neither his father, his mother, nor anyone else ever knew what became of him those 300 years ago. And now we're at a school, and the voiceover continues, but in the form of a teacher. It's no longer a voiceover. The Sanderson sisters were hanged by the Salem townfolk. Hanged? Hung? Shouldn't it be hung, not hanged? Since when was hanged the right term for this? I thought it was hung.
It was hanged. I don't know why. It hung is.
What is the difference between hanged and hung? Because I was always told that it was hung.
I don't know. They were hanged, I guess.
Okay. So, hung is the past tense form of the verb to hang, used when talking about something suspended, usually an object. Seems like this would be the right place to use hung. Now, this is hanged. Hanged is also the past tense of the verb to hang, but is used when talking about a person sadly killed by hanging. Okay, fine. I guess. Sure. I guess hanged is only used for people.
I mean, who knows? It's literally like it's a term that always confused me as well. So
It's one where I'm like, make up your mind. Just let there be one. English is a dumb language.
oh, tell me about it.
So, there are those who say that on Halloween night, a black cat still guards the old Sanderson house, warning off any who might make the witches come back to life. And we have a skeptic in our midst, because of course there must be a skeptic in our midst. He must be the one to, let these ladies come back to life. And it's Mr. Dennison. He's a Californian, laid-back, tie-dyed, point-of-view kind of guy. Now, he calls it black cats, which is and stuff. I love that everybody in the school takes offense to stuff.
It is Salem, so they are very proud of their town. So
That is fair. Everyone here knows that Halloween was created by the candy companies. It's all a conspiracy, and this is what our lovely friend Mr. Dennison is saying. Now, a girl pipes up and says that Halloween is based on the ancient feast called All Hallows Eve, and it's the one night of the year where spirits of the dead can come back to Earth. Everyone claps, and they're like, well said, Allison. Cool. All right, sure. Now, Mr. California over here stands up and in front of the whole class gives her like a piece of paper and goes, in case Jimi Hendrix shows up tonight, here's my number. Such a bold move. I didn't even know that this was an option.
I mean, I guess, it was, sorry, I kicked my phone there. Yeah, it's funny. This whole scene this is where I say, like, there are some plot holes, and there are some, like, you really have to suspend belief. Kids in the 1990s, they weren't that bold, like,
I
and if
thought
they
Mr.
were,
California was that bold. I
Mr.
don't know what you're
California
talking about.
that bold, but not me. You would, I would, and honestly, like, I always thought that was kind of hokey, but it's
Hey,
here's a fun fact though: the woman
oh
playing the teacher. Have you ever seen the movie Singing in the Rain?
yes.
Okay, Kathleen Freeman played the voice teacher in Singing in the Rain.
Oh.
So that's her. I worked with her in 2001. I was an associate producer for a Jerry Lewis telethon, and we put on the musical, put on a segment from the musical Full Monty, and she was starring in that at the time. She's a fascinating woman, and she never thought and whenever anybody would mention people mentioned Hocus Pocus, she was so like poo poo it. She just not. She was like, oh, there's some things you want to forget from your career, that kind of thing. But
Oh, is that
um,
one of the things
she
that
was
she wanted to
she was
forget?
not. Yeah, she was not a fan of the film.
Oh
But
no.
she was. It you know it was she's an old actress from old timey Hollywood. So, and she's done so many more things too. I mean, she has a resume a mile long, but she's just well known for Singing in the Rain as the voice teacher. And I can't stand him. And
Mhm.
so seeing her in that movie is like you went from this blockbuster Hollywood film from the 1950s to Hocus Pocus as a school teacher. So I kind of understand where it was a low point. She felt it was a low point in her career, but
Fair. I thought she did fantastic as it.
yeah.
Um but yeah, I was like, so Max and Allison are ending up together at the end of the movie, so that's a guarantee. Lovely. Thank you. Um I didn't know a bold move like this was an option. Maybe it's something I gotta try. I don't know. Um, if anyone's listening to this and you do try this move, let me know how it goes, because boy, am I curious. Now, everyone rushes out of school. Max catches up to Allison and apologizes for embarrassing her in front of the entire class. And she's just like, you didn't. And I was like, ooh la la. The love bells are ringing. Yeah, they're ending up together at the end of the film. And Max, we find out, has just moved here last week and he doesn't believe in Halloween and stuff like that. And Allison gives him his number back. And I was like, ooh, the drama. They can't get together yet. There has to be something like the witches that bring them together. So I was like, cool. This is where I did have the doubt. I was like, is Allison somehow related to the sisters? Like, maybe it's a sister, like the sisters had a brother and he separated himself from the sisters, and so she's actually like a long lost relative or something. But it's a dumb theory, but it's a theory.
There's a story that's in there's a Hocus Pocus sequel book that didn't make it. That is not the plot of the Hocus Pocus sequel movie. And there were actually four Sanderson sisters, not three. And so there is some backstory to that,
Ooh.
but it's not. You have to read the book.
Okay. Sounds good. I'll put it on hold at the library.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I'm thinking Allison might be somehow related, and I'm also like, okay. So Max and Allison are gonna somehow end up in whatever situation together, and Max is going to summon the sisters back to life because he doesn't believe in all of this hocus pocus Halloween magic. That's what's gonna happen. There's no way around it. Max rides through town, ends up at a cemetery, and we meet Jay and Ernie. And Ernie's like, Jay, how many times do I have to tell you? It ain't Ernie no more. It's Ice. And then he has ice like shaved into the back of his head, in his hair. Yeah, rawr, tough guy.
Right.
So he's like, let's have a butt. No thanks, I don't smoke. And then I love Ice over here. They're very health conscious in LA. And I'm like,
Right.
yes, fantastic. Lovely. No notes. Um, They ask if he has any cash. Nope, no cash, no smokes. What am I supposed to do with my afternoon? Asks Jay. And, or no, what am I, sorry. Um, so they ask if he has any cash, and it's like, no cash, no smokes. What am I supposed to do with my afternoon? Says Ice. And Max just hits him back with, maybe you could learn to breathe through your nose. So good. It's fantastic. Oh, no notes. Now, Jay stops laughing and notices his new cross trainers, and they end up stealing his shoes and they let Max go. Now, why does he have to ride through a cemetery to get to the town from the school, which is probably in the town?
A town of Salem is small, and the houses are close together, so maybe it's a shortcut.
Okay, sure. Because I know that Salem is a small town, but I was like, why are you riding through the cemetery? Also, you've been there a week. How do you already know what all the shortcuts are to your house?
Again, this is what I'm saying. It's not the greatest script, and it's not the greatest film on the planet. It is the greatest film as when you look at it from a cult classic camp value point of view, and don't try to ask the big questions, because they're just not there. They're just not. They took so many liberties that it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Max gets home, school sucked, and Dad's like, "Watch your language." And I'm like, he said sucked. He's fine.
Right. And
like, fine. Max is upset that he was forced to move here, and Mom notices that he wasn't wearing any shoes, and Dad's like, I don't know, must be some form of protest. I love that the dad's just like, I really don't know what's going on anymore. Like, just sure, like, cool. Max gets upstairs, slams his head on his closed bedroom door instead of just walking into the door right away. So dramatic. Who does this?
apparently in 1993 it was a thing.
It's your room, dude. Just walk in. Now, someone/something is watching Max through the window, and I was like, oh, is it the cat? Max feeds his fish, lays on his bed, and starts thinking about Allison. And nope, it wasn't not a cat. It was Danny, his little sister, who was hiding in the closet to scare him. Now, Danny wants Max to take her trick-or-treating, and Max doesn't want to, but Danny says that he has to because Mom and Dad are going to the party at Town Hall. And he's like, well, you're 8, go by yourself. And then Max heads over and starts playing the drums because cool guy.
That's what you do. I guess that's what you do when you want to ignore your sister.
I mean, it's an efficient way.
I get. I was like, why is he playing the drums?
Danny says that she'll get lost and it's a full moon out, so they're all the weirdos are out as well. And Danny says it doesn't matter what he says, he's taking her. And he just goes, wanna bet? And then he climbs up some stairs in his bedroom and sits down. What is the layout of this house?
You'll see. It's a quite impressive house. Actually, if you go to Salem, you can actually see they actually filmed at that house, and it's there. It's really cool. Like, it's exactly the house exactly as is. Like, you can walk by it and take pictures by it.
Nice.
Yeah,
that's fun. Yeah, no, it seems like a cool room, though. Good job, Max. You got the best room in the house, it looks like. If that's your room, what's the master bedroom like? Anyway, Danny screams for Mom. And I think that is, just a very nice place to stop this episode right before we head out to trick-or-treating and see what other shenanigans our friends get mixed up in.
Oh yes, you are in for a treat. So
yes, but Bobby, as always, thank you so much for joining on this episode. Thank you for reaching out and saying that it's one of your favorite movies. I am having the best time with this film.
Yeah. How you like the rest of the film? I'm very curious to see what your thought process is on how the rest of the film goes.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. Now, if people want to find you on the internet, out in the world doing things, how can they follow you? Where can they find some of your work? Things like that.
Great. YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all at Bobby Hedglin-Taylor. And there's a very secret project. You can catch me up. I can't talk about it because I signed an NDA, but in October, there'll be a big project that you'll be able to watch internationally. And let's see, what else? My book is called Hashtag Shit My Mama Says. It is available on Amazon and in Kindle. That's my mom. That's my mom. My mom passed of COVID, and that book is all of her catchphrases when she was living in a nursing home. And I just documented my interactions with her at the nursing home. So it's a fun little piece of humor, way to get through the pandemic and a way to get through the loss of a loved one. So anybody out there dealing with dementia or dealing with a family member with dementia, it's a fun way to just sort of escape. So you'll see me on any of those apps, and like, share, comment, follow. And same thing with this podcast. All my followers, please like, share, comment, and follow Ankit.
Yeah, thank you so much. You will be our guest for the next episode. So you are going to be here for shenanigans because, oh boy, are there some shenanigans that are coming up in the next episode.
Woohoo!
So until next week, thank you all so much for listening. And Bobby, thank you so much for joining. And until next week, we'll catch y'all later. Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for listening to this episode of Post Finale. Post Finale is created, hosted, and produced by me, Ankit Madhira. Our editor is Pranav Nair. The music is by Ankit Madhira and Megan Hutcherson, and the art is by Jarid Rother. If you are all enjoying this episode and want to gain access to more bonus content, you can do so by heading over to patreon.com/coopforge and signing up for any of the tiers. You get loads of different bonus content, such as notes and commentary that we have as we're watching the films, as well as some bonus audio, some bonus videos, and ad-free episodes, early access if we get them done early, and different things like that. All of that can be found at patreon.com/coopforge, and that's patreon.com/co_opforge. If you want to help out the show in a non-monetary way, that's great as well. Tell a friend about the show. Just reach out and be like, hey, you love films, or hey, you need an excuse to watch some more films. Check out the show called Post Finale. The host is an actor, and he's funny and silly, confused most of the time, but they have interesting discussions about some popular films that I think you would really enjoy. It really does help us out a lot. Be sure to talk about us on social media at Post Finale Pod on Instagram and Facebook. And you can also follow us at CoopForge, that's CO_OPFORGE, on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. And there we post content not just from Post Finale, but also from the other shows hosted here on Co-op Forge, which are Flip the Scripts and Seattle Across the Pond. So a lot of fun things can be found over there on our social media. It really, really does help us out a lot. Thank you to everyone who has already done this. Thank you to everyone who will do this in the future. It really does mean a lot to us, and it helps us create better content for you, the listeners, as we grow. It really does help, and thank you so much for listening to this episode of Post Finale, and I can't wait until next week. And until then, I'll catch you all later.